everyone. Welcome to our session. I see we have approximately 10 people and people are signing in. My name is Michelle. If I can encourage you as we start, please share with us your name and where you are from. Please key it into the chat room at the bottom of your screen. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, Kelly Reynolds from St. Catharines. Ah, I grew up in St. Catharines, went to Dennis Morris High School there. Wonderful to have you. Sarah from Vancouver. No way. Yeah, I know. Small world, eh, Kelly? I used to live actually near the regatta. Ah, collegiate grad. Fantastic. Who else have we got on our call today? Renee Rawls from Maryland. Wonderful. Oh, no, I have to say go Redmond. Sorry about the Saints, Kelly. Go Redmond. Sarah's calling in from Vancouver, BC, and we've got Kitty from Hungary. Welcome. Such a pleasure to have some international people participating today. Wonderful. Please key in your name. Isaac from Alaska. Well, only way I can relate to you right now, Isaac, is it's about minus 12 degrees here in Toronto area, but I'm sure it's much colder there. And we've got Siriki from the Ivory Coast in West Africa. Fantastic. Wonderful to have you. We're just going to give folks another moment to sign in. We did have 36 people register and we'll start in about 1 minute. And as you're joining us, please feel free to key in where you're from. Miriam from Toronto, fantastic. Hi to you as well. And as we're having people sign in, I'm just going to pull up our presentation today. And I also want to take a moment to introduce to you, we have Joanne DeCalla, who's going to kick our session off in just a moment. And she is working hard in the background to make sure that people get registered for our program and provide support that they have and need. And we also have our distinguished alumni, Hassan Faruqi, who will be joining us as well today. Fantastic. I think we're going to get started. It's about 5 minutes after. So Joanne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm so happy that you could take time out of your busy day to join us today. I am a senior education advisor with the Schulich Executive Education Center, and I am the lead for this dynamic program, the Master's Certificate in Organization Development and Change. And our program director, Michelle Chambers, will discuss and chat about this program with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I also wanted to let you know that after the session, I will reach out to everyone in the event you have any other questions, or if you'd like to register for the program, I'd be happy to send you information. So Michelle, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And I'm going to encourage people, if you can come and attend this session visually, would love to see you. It gives me energy and a chance to interact with you. If you prefer just to communicate via chat, that is fine as well. Please feel free to ask questions as we go throughout the session, and Joanne will also help me monitor the chat. And we would like to make this an engaging session. So not only will we have an opportunity to interact with Hassan, who has taken the program, but we're going to share with you some of the material and get you engaged in participating as learners as well. So we're going to do our introduction of the program itself. Hassan is going to share his experience. We're going to give you some sample program content, and we'll have a formal Q&A time at the end. But as I said, please feel free to share your questions and answers as we go throughout the session. This is our current program faculty. We bring in folks who are not only academics, but more experienced as what we call pracademics, people who are working right now in the field of OD with organizations who are dealing with real challenges and who can bring lots of stories and experiences to our sessions. So that way you have the benefit of learning from people who are currently working in the field. So some of you might be asking, what exactly is OD? And that term is sometimes misunderstood by professionals in the workplace. Some people say OD is just about organization design. It's actually way more than that. Organization development is basically a system-wide application, so across an organization or an enterprise, for example, of knowledge built from behavioral science disciplines, such as psychology, anthropology, sociology, to ensure that the planned development and reinforcement of organizational strategies, structures, and processes are working well together to improve the organization's overall health and effectiveness. So it's a very, how can I say, a challenging opportunity to support organizations, but also a real benefit to support them from a systems-wide perspective so that you can create meaningful change and really enable individuals, teams, and organizations to be higher performing. We often have the question, is this a field that's growing? I'm going to invest in myself, or my organization's investing in me, and I want to make sure that, this is a future skill or career path for me. Well, guess what? Since COVID hit especially, this is a growing field. We are all working with tremendous, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous change. And we're all working together to redefine how organizations can develop things such as policies and structures to ensure that we can manage transformational efforts well. OD practitioners themselves might be engaged in work such as employee engagement surveys, team development initiatives, leadership development, strategic planning, culture change, organization development or design, and other initiatives that support organizational objectives. What type of sectors do we work in? Every single sector. There isn't one that doesn't and cannot benefit from the use of an organization development. People in our program, we have a lot of people coming in from financial services, not-for-profit, public sector, high tech, telco, pharmaceutical, and healthcare. And employers are now much more cognizant of the role and value of organization development in their organizations. And they're looking for people who have specific training and development in this area. And they're often expressing and preferring applicants who have additional experience and qualifications. And Schulich is one of 2 universities that has this particular master's certificate, which gives us an edge over and above the American universities, which have full degrees in masters in organization development. So this is like a compressed master's certificate, which gives you the skills, tools, and methodologies to apply immediately in your organizations. What are some of the unique features? Well, we obviously want to make sure that we provide you with some context of the field of OD and that we share with you the theories and models and practices that support change at the individual, team, and organizational level. We also want to give you an opportunity to reflect. Imagine that, people, a chance to step back from your busy job and reflect, who am I as an OD practitioner? How do I influence change? How do I accept change? What are my values? What is the role and what support can I bring to organizations? And so we actually have a variety of assessments from OD competencies and skills, consulting skills, et cetera, to give you an opportunity to identify your strengths, your opportunities for development so that you can work on those gaps during the program course itself. One of the things that people love most, and I'm sure Hassan will talk about this, is the cohort approach. It is a really good opportunity to start with a group of 15 individuals, say, for example, go through all of your courses together. We build a really tight learning community. People develop an awareness of different types of organizations. They often tap into each other for tools or support, and many continue on in a learning community after the program. And of course, we have a practicum. This is unique to our program. You will have an opportunity to take all of the learning that you've gained throughout the program, choose an organization, and actually practice OD by developing an intervention within that organization, getting support from a professionally trained faculty advisor and coach, as well as learning partners and feedback from your client, which will really enable you to tie all of your learning together. And of course, who doesn't want tools, templates, and frameworks that you can take back immediately on the job and to use with your clients, whether they be internal or external? So you might be thinking, Is this program for me? Well, if you are definitely someone who's involved as an agent of change, perhaps leading change, consulting around change, doing change training, if you are a leader who is responsible for change in your unit or organization, and if you're a consultant, and if you want to expand your own knowledge and skill set, then this program is for you. And of course, HR professionals often want to incorporate change processes into their repertoire and working with their business partners. So what is a master's certificate in OD? Well, I'd like to share with you at Schulich, we see it as real business knowledge that you are getting from practitioners. It's an opportunity to take your expertise to the next role, expand your network, and really grow your potential and soar to new heights. We know that the program is really recognized with employers, and so often our participants share with us that this is a career transforming program. In fact, we've had graduates who've taken this program and then secured employment with a potential employer in the role of being an OD practitioner or consultant. So let me take a moment and give you an idea of what the program looks like at a glance. Essentially, we'll be starting this program in April, and we start off with what we call Module 1, which is the equivalent of 2 full days, and it's around OD change and essentials. Now, most of our modules, because we're operating in a virtual environment, are offered in half-day or 3-hour sessions. So this particular program runs over 4 3-hour sessions. And you'll be introduced to what is OD, the action research model, the use of self as an instrument of change, etc. Then in May, you come join the rest of your cohort for part 1 of module 2 of the intensive. And this particular 3 full day or 6 half-day equivalent program really focuses around systems thinking, around the OD action research model in detail. So how do I enter into a relationship with a client? How do I contract with them? How do I negotiate what those deliverables are going to be? How do I collect data and share that with the client and co-partner with them to design an intervention? And then how do we go through all those phases of actually developing an intervention right through to separation? And you'll receive an opportunity to do consulting skills assessments. You'll actually be involved in a lot of practical situations where you'll negotiate with your cohort as though you were negotiating an actual contract, etc. Later in May, you'll have the opportunity to come back and do part 2 of the OD and Change Intensive. And this is a 2 full day program or 4 half-day modules, where the focus will be more around leadership and management and systemic change. So we're going to introduce you more to models that are used to diagnose organizations, more what we call OD models of change versus the typical Cotter model of change, which you might learn in an MBA school. This will give you an opportunity as well to be exposed to some potential interventions, such as the World Cafe method. We might do other methods as well to give you an opportunity to try out some of those OD interventions in your cohorts. When you come back to join us in June, you'll have an opportunity within a 1 full day session to actually work on a large scale transformation case dealing with IBM and understanding how complex systems changes and how you can work with a team of consultants to actually support a team of leaders in addressing real business issues. You'll also have the opportunity to come back and work with us for 2 full days where we'll teach you the Harvard Business School model of developing business cases. So how do you get the ear of senior leaders? How do you get the buy-in to introduce an intervention such as coaching across the organization, launching a Leadership Institute program, launching high performance programs, or other types of OD interventions? And the really cool thing about this is we actually invite and we vote on as a group, and we choose 3 real situations that the participants might have and that they want to develop a real business case for. So it's real action learning in the moment. And then our final component is what we call our practicum. And this is an opportunity over the course of 6 months where you get to choose an organization to work with and to introduce an OD intervention. You keep a learning journal, you get feedback from the client, you have consulting or coaching sessions with practicum advisors, and you also work in a cohort of learning peers. Usually we put people into groups of 3 or 4. And you really get to pull together all of the learning and apply it in this practicum. In fact, some of our practicum participants have been hired as future students and future workers in those organizations. I'm just going to pause for a minute and see, do we have any questions right now coming from participants as to the overall design and intent of the program? If there's any questions, please feel free to ask them verbally, or you can also put them into the chat room. Okay, so these slides, and you will be sent these by Joanne afterwards, but I basically walked through them as I was describing each of the modules, but I'll just post them for a minute just to give everyone an opportunity to see what's involved in each of the modules. Sorry, I get a little excited about all of this because I love learning and teaching in OD. And as you can see, it's just a really good opportunity to start with a base knowledge of OD, build and expand on that, network with peers, learn practical examples, apply your learning, and really adapt it so that you get to do a real life intervention at the end. Fantastic question, Miriam. What's the difference between a master's degree and this program? Well, a master's degree in OD typically is 2 years of full-time study, and it would be based much more around theoretical models, and it would or would not involve a particular opportunity to do a practicum. So the master's certificate is like a condensed version of a master's program, but it focuses more on the practical and applied methods, as opposed to giving you a lot of theory and asking you to do a lot of research. Master students typically present a thesis. We don't do that. We're really focused on the practical elements, whereby we teach people the skills they need and give them the tools, and then they complete it by doing a practicum and getting feedback on that practicum. Another question here. If I have my change management certification, will this expand on that knowledge, or is it an introduction to CM, to change management? Great question. OD is much more than just change management. In fact, if you're certified through ProC or ADCAR, this does not touch upon any of that at all. What we're looking at is really supporting people as OD practitioners to help their clients diagnose what change is required in an organization. So you'll be introduced to models such as Burt-Liquin, McKinsey 7S Classic. So it's a very different perspective of change. Change management is more about how to actually implement and execute change once a program has been approved. So that's the key difference there. So there's some complementary topics. So for example, we talk about supporting people in managing resistance to change. We briefly go over Cotter's model of change, but really it's quite a different perspective. OD has change as part of its component, but it's much more about assessing change in systems as a whole. Okay, let's move on here. So I'm going to give the floor over to Hassan. And Hassan had the opportunity to recently be one of our program participants. In fact, he sent some of his employees into this program. And it was a great pleasure to work with you, Hassan. And Hassan is currently the Director of Learning and Development North America for OSL Retail. And I was so happy to see, and he might be a little embarrassed, but they were nominated for the Talent Award for LinkedIn for 2021. And so thank you so much, Hassan, for coming to join us today. Really appreciate your time and commitment to the program and support for it. So maybe I'll just give you a few minutes to share what were some of the key highlights or benefits to you as a participant in this program.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me. Pleasure to meet everyone today. For me, I actually took this program as a follow-up to the Master's Certificate in Adult Training and Development. So it was the first course or first program I'd taken at Schulich. And loved that, loved what I was learning there. And then, with our organization, the way it was growing and scaling, I think organization development was definitely needed within our business framework. And so the business decided to send me over, and I completed the program, the MCOD program with Schulich, and lots of really good takeaways and understanding systems and processes and how they work with one another and how to develop and implement programs within our organization. And we, as part of my practicum, which I did a values and behaviors exercise, I was actually able to implement all the knowledge that I had received from the program. And we were able to set up a system of values and behaviors within our business that today makes the framework of how we manage performance in our business. So it was totally worth the learning, and it was definitely worth all the information we're able to gain and then apply in our workplace. So I'm very proud of that.
That's fantastic. What a great way to use your practicum opportunity to build some value add for the organization. Can you talk a little bit more about the practicum? How did you decide on that? What type of support did you get? What were some of the pros and cons as you were working in with the various leaders?
Yeah, so the practicum actually was probably the best part of the program for me. So, apart from all the knowledge that, and a lot of it is, readily available on the internet, if you will, but just the way things were pulled together, the importance of it, how they linked with one another, I found that very beneficial. But I think the practicum was not only the best part, it was also the most difficult part of the program, and really being able to apply all the knowledge we had learned. And so the overall experience was very challenging. For someone like me, I felt it was a bit daunting too, but I overcame it. It was, I had a lot of applied knowledge in there. And for me, what I ended up using the practicum for was to further initiatives within our business, and really taking an applied approach, as Michelle's been talking about. It was less about the theory, it was more about how do I practically apply this in the workplace. And so my practicum revolved around values within an organization, and how they're, most organizations just have a set of values that are not action items, that are not actionable. And so I decided to, as part of my practicum, build a set of values that were related to the organization, but not only put them into practice, but have a way of measuring how people are living those values. So we came up with a very distinct model in our business where we measure people and their success and performance based on whether they need help, whether they're living the values, or whether they're teaching the values. And we apply that across the board, across North America. And so we understand that if a person is living values or teaching values, they are probably performing to the highest possible potential within our business. And we actually executed our performance review, a performance management system with IntelliHR last year. And we were actually, as Michelle had alluded to, as part of that entire program, we were also the recipient of the best culture of learning for a workplace between 1,000 and 10,000 employees, and all of these different elements combined helped us win that prestigious award. So a lot of moving parts, and a lot of this was definitely kudos to what I was able to take away and apply at our workplace through the MCOD program.
Thank you so much, Hassan. And I really appreciate your vulnerability that you expressed at the beginning on how it can seem a little daunting at first. And one of the things I love about this program is we also provide program or practicum advisors, so that not only are you thinking about what type of intervention you might want to introduce in an organization, but you've got ongoing support as you're applying that knowledge and developing it. Because it can seem daunting, especially if it's something you've never done before, but you want to try and change something in an organization. And we're here to help support you. And the other piece as part of that too is what we do is create an opportunity for you to reflect on your learning. We encourage you to keep a journal, and then to share with us a reflective paper at the end of the program, which isn't graded like an academic paper. It's more to give you feedback, and it's graded as a pass or fail. What other highlights? Talk to us a little bit about your cohort experience, and what was that like, and how did you benefit from that?
Yeah, I'd be remiss before I go to the cohort to not mention my practicum supervisor, Ray Gordeski. He was phenomenal in helping kind of guide as you'd mentioned, Michelle, for me, it was daunting, as I'm sure it was for a few others, but just the way the practicum supervisors guided you and were able to really understand your situation, provide feedback, and really course correct where needed. I really enjoyed that process. And now I use that with my employees to make sure that I'm providing the same level of input to them. The cohort experience was, again, it was incredible. Reaching out, we had during my cohort, we had such a phenomenal variety or diversity of people in our program. And I was fortunate enough to have obviously taken it in person as well, but such a diverse group of people. And I think that really added value to the program, because it's one thing to learn on your own and kind of self-paced, kind of instructor-led, but this was one of the few programs I've actually taken at the master's certificate level where we were all learning from one another. It was never just about, it was about the important discussions we were having and different points of view, sometimes a little polarizing, but opposing points of view, but it was all in the spirit of learning and understanding how different people think and how you could all come to a solution through various different channels. And for me, that was it was pretty eye-opening, and there's no one way to do things. You can do them differently. It just depends on the organization. And learning from my peers, my cohort was probably the best experience I had. And there was, you have different levels. You have people who are entering the industry, trying to understand OD. And then there were people who had done OD for years, and they came in and they took different things away, and they shared their experiences and how they were experiencing OD and stuff they were taking away. I thought that was very powerful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And one of the things we're looking on doing is really to create this community of practice with all of the cohorts in the near future, so that we can have some type of opportunity for everyone to engage with people, past participants, current participants, because that's what it's about, is being a community of learners and practitioners together. So thank you for that. Hassan, is there anything else that you'd like to share in terms of, key takeaways for you from the program, or other benefits, or what might you say to someone if they were interested in this program?
Yeah, so if you're interested in understanding and expanding your scope, building capacity within yourself to get better and more in depth into OD, highly, highly recommend this program. There's a lot to learn, not only from the theoretical side, but the practical and application side as well. And obviously, it's changed the course of my career. I started off almost a decade ago in the whole learning sphere. And I think the learning and development part of my job really took off when I enrolled myself into the MCOD program. So that was a pretty big shift for me in understanding how I look at systems and processes as a whole versus just looking at the learning component of it. Anybody who's interested in taking this program, I definitely recommend it. And I think it'll also open up a lot more doors. OD is a very misunderstood, very complex field. And when I say misunderstood, is a lot of people aren't able to really articulate well what the OD field is. And I think it supersedes what a lot of people actually think it is. And understanding how it's different from things like project management or management consulting, I think OD is a very different beast. And for me, the way I see it, how I interact with other organizations now as a result of taking this course, I've come to realize that it is a pretty vast field. It continues to grow. And there's a lot of future. And I think Michelle hit the nail on the head when she said we're living in a VUCA world right now. Nothing better than COVID to kind of show us what that is. And I took my course pre-COVID, and I can tell you we applied a lot of the knowledge and there was a lot of practical applications when we actually ended up going into this. If you're looking for change leadership, not so much change management as Michelle was talking about, but change leadership, how do you bring about changes to your organization? How do you connect with people, stakeholders, business partners? How do you make an impact? How do you run programs and systems and how they work with each other? How do you do interventions within the business? This is the absolute best program you can take to learn all of that stuff, and then also apply it within a safe working environment. So that would be my elevator pitch.
Oh, thank you so much, Hassan. That's great feedback for us to hear on the program and for others listening in. I see a couple of questions here as well. So I just want to take the moment to address those before we move on. Question coming in from May. If you're not in Canada, is this available for people based in the UK? how time intensive is this? And does one need to take time off of work? Well, great question. As COVID has obviously impacted a lot of post-secondary institutions and executive ed programs, we have been offering this program virtually for 2 years now. And our intent moving forward is that we will always have one running virtually, because we have people across the globe who've been inquiring around this. We typically run the program from 9 to 12 Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in the UK, that's 5 hours ahead of us. But we also have participants coming in from India and China as well. So we're trying to accommodate that and to make sure that's why we have the 3-hour modules now. And our hope is that we will also have a face-to-face run later on in the year. In terms of time intensity, the program does run during the week. So depending on what your schedule is like, we have had participants who may be employed who had to book some time off or book vacation with their employers, depending on their agreement, if their employer may or may not sponsor them. And we also have had people who might be self-employed, for example, who maybe have just worked that around their commitment to their clients. Typically, the programs are 3 to 4 half days over the course of 2 weeks. There's a break of 2 to 3 weeks, and then we start up again. We do have some pre-reading prior to the modules, and sometimes there's a little bit of homework after the module to prep you for the next module. The practicum itself is probably the most intensive part. And again, that is all up to you to arrange with your client at your own convenience. And we've had participants who've been able to do that during the course of their regular working hours. And some have worked in other organizations and therefore have taken time off. Also see another couple of questions here. Let me just see. Oh, we got a question around cost. Joanne, I'll turn that one over to you if you want to just give the overall framework for the cost while we're here at the question.
Sure. The fee for the program is $10,500, and that includes everything. It includes all of the modules plus the practicum. One fee. It also includes all of the reading materials that you will receive prior to the beginning of the program. And there are no other additional costs. So that is the fee for the entire program.
And one thing to note, that includes the one-on-one coaching time that you have with the practicum advisors, which that is just not something you can really easily get outside of this program. I mean, if you were to pay a mentor or a private coach, you could easily spend, $500 an hour to get that type of support. So that's included, as well as all the tools in the various toolkits. So again, you get, practical tools that you can take and use with your clients. One of the other questions, and I'll have to give some thought to this, and Hassan, I'll ask you maybe to give some thought. There are thousands of books published around OD topics, but we do have a question here in the chat room. Is there one that you could recommend? There is a book around OD and change by Cummings and Worley. And it's a little bit more of a textbook, perhaps. It's actually used for a Master's of Science program in OD out of the US. But I would say that would give you a really good overview. But there's probably books around specific interventions, such as large-scale open change, appreciative inquiry, open space technology, if you want to get into specifics. There's thousands of books around leadership and change. We actually do have a reference list available that we do give to people when they participate in the program. And we ask our participants to share with each other, what are some good books you've read? And what were some of your takeaways as well? I'm going to continue on here. Thank you so much, Hassan. Really appreciate your time. And if you're able to stay with you on the call, that would be fantastic. So let's just take a look here. What's some of the sample content that you might receive? So first of all, obviously we need to understand that organizational change happens at 3 different layers. And so we classify it as 3 types. So one is basically what we call developmental change. This is your typical ongoing improvement of day-to-day processes. Then we have what we call transitional change. And transitional change really focuses on changing some skills and mindsets. So Maybe I've got someone, they're new to leadership, and I'm going to enroll them in our leadership development program, teach them about the importance of values, operating in accordance with values, give them some specific skills on how do they coach people, etc. And then we have what we call transformational change. And transformational change is what we are all going through right now with COVID. Transformational change means we don't necessarily know the outcomes of it. Leaders who've been in the workforce for years do not know what the potential outcomes are. And so we have to collaborate together in order to affect meaningful change. And in fact, has anyone here ever heard of the term VUCA? Share with me in the chat room. Do you know what VUCA is? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Well, here's how OD can help. We often assume, for example, let me give you a concrete example. Does anyone remember when Amazon bookstore was just a bookstore? Hard to believe. Just over a decade ago, they just sold books like Indigo or Kohl's or other local bookstores. And now look at them as an enterprise. Well, they are an organization that has upset and usurped many industries. If you're in the hospitality industry, for example, Airbnb disrupted hotels, Uber disrupted the taxi industry. So this has created what we call VUCA change. COVID has incrementally, encouraged every organization to adapt to change. So OD can help support leaders by taking that volatility and helping them create concrete visions of how we're going to move forward. We can look at the uncertainty that exists and help support leaders and organizations to create understanding and clarity amongst this complexity. And right now, what we're seeing is a really good opportunity for OD people to focus on the ambiguity that exists with this type of change. And how do we help support leaders and employees and organizations themselves become more agile? How do we encourage them to adopt? And heaven knows, lockdowns have encouraged that for all of us, regardless of what industry you've been in. But how can we actually encourage this as part of an ongoing process of learning in our organizations? So here's my question out to our participants here. Using the chat function, please give us some feedback. What are some of the challenges that leaders and employees are facing working in this VUCA, this volatile, uncertain, complex world? So I'll encourage our participants, please key in your responses into the chat function, and I'll just put that in as a question here, and then you can put your responses in. What challenges are leaders and employees facing in working in a VUCA world? Go ahead, please. We'll give you a couple of minutes to put your responses in. Joanne and Hassan, I encourage you, if you want to participate, go ahead. Yeah, I'm seeing here from Pan, burnout, heavy workload, staff shortages. Oh, isn't that just everything we're hearing nowadays from our clients, right? Mental health challenges, burnout and stress at work. Lots of people, unfortunately, getting COVID. That's leading to heavier workloads for colleagues and staff shortages. Coming in from Miriam, even Plan B is not working in this epidemic era. Yeah, so in the past, we typically would have a plan to follow and we would know and measure success against that plan. Well, as I said, with this transformational change, even if you had a plan B, we're going to plan C, plan D, we're being agile and responding to our external environments in the moment. Coming in from JSOM, adapting to constant change. Absolutely. Yep, the only thing that is constant is the change happening all around us, isn't it? Coming in from Renee, recuses. I'm not sure what that means. Could you clarify that for me, please? And I'll continue on. And if you can put that in the chat, Renee, that would be great. Coming in from Carmen, uncertain futures, job insecurity and burnout. Yeah, there's no question. For example, we've seen in certain industries, burnout happening a lot in healthcare. Uncertain futures, there's no question. Hassan, you can speak to this especially, but the whole retail environment has been turned upside down and people have left jobs because there has been lack of security with lockdowns and other types of things. The Great Resignation, absolutely. Lack of resources. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, because of overwhelming challenge or staff shortages, etc. Lack of money. Uncertainty. Decision-making is more challenging. Absolutely. Workplace cultures. We're working in hybrid types of organizations now too. Division of staff. Yeah, unfortunately, COVID is bringing about some toxic communication as well. It's the us versus them. There's those who work on site versus those who work off site. Coming in from Carmen again, attempts by upper management to hold on to the pre-pandemic world and systems that no longer work. This would be a great example of how OD can help leaders and support them in changing their mindsets to adapt to the new world. We call that style of leadership heroic versus collaborative, and it is no question, it has a time and a place, but as a whole, it should not be the primary style. Okay, keeping everyone motivated, lack of resources. Oh, you guys are just full of lots of great examples. Changing context and the need to explore new areas. Fantastic, lots of great ideas here. So let's find out from you, what are some of the reasons that your organizations have experienced successful change efforts? So let me key that into the chat room. Please share some reasons why change has been successful. Please share reasons why, or reasons that contribute to successful change efforts. It's always good to understand what's working well, first of all. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to key in your responses. Awesome. So I'm going to note some of the themes here. Hassan is sharing from direct experience, leadership leading these change efforts and showing empathy in the process. There is no question that empathy and agility are two of the most critical leadership skills right now as we go through this constant change. Thank you. Clear vision provided and buy-in sought from key stakeholders. Absolutely. If we really want change to happen, we need to involve people in the change and make sure that we bring in different stakeholder perspectives. Shifts in leaders' responsibilities and roles, mediation, conflict resolution, redefining values and practices that reflect them. Thank you very much, Jillian. Coming in from Pan, good planning, early and frequent communication, and you now have a change management team. Woohoo, that sounds positive. That is often left to the role of someone off the side of their desk, and it doesn't work. So glad to hear it. Created teams for assessment and feedback into creating the change at different stages with diverse groups. Wonderful. Confidence in leaders driving the change, motivation of employees, and positive support from management. Great. Buy-in from all staff and external teams. Listening to the boots on the ground and to staff, especially frontline staff, is what is needed, and accountability. The centering of less heard voices, wonderful. Caring for each other and being responsible to contribute and collaborate. Oh, it sounds like we're building here a phenomenal organization and community. Involvement in consultation processes with staff to keep them well informed. Oh, fantastic. You guys get it. This is really what successful change looks like. And at the same time, we know from thousands of research studies why change efforts fail. Here's some listed here from the Center for Strategic Management. Which of these speak out to you? I encourage you to come on verbally if you want to share, if there's one in particular that you've seen over and over again, or key your answer into the chat room. I know one that frustrates me a lot of the time is lack of senior management modeling. And, you know, if we don't have senior management buy-in, and on top of that, if we don't have the modeling, then the change effort isn't really going to happen. I remember once working on a whole organization culture review, thought we had all the buy-in from senior management, everyone had completed their assessments, and I had one VP, sales and marketing, who kept telling his teams, don't worry about it. We don't need to do that. We'll just let the rest of the organization go on. Well, of course, people talk across functional units. And so he actually ended up undermining the whole organizational effort to which the change leadership team and the senior team had agreed to. So that's one in particular that really frustrates me. Seeing here roles and responsibilities not clear coming in from May. Yeah, that happens all the time. Understanding the complexity of the change and the lack of accountability. Oh, we never see that as OD practitioners. Yeah, all the time. Okay, let's move on. This is a sample of a change model that you might experience in our program. I'm not going to run through it in detail, but what you can see is the approach we take is to take a look at the external environment around the organization or around the team. And then we take a look at what types of levers we can pull on within the organization. And those levers might be anything from mission and strategy to actual culture, management practices. And we pull on those levers to create change in the organization. And we know that whenever we introduce change in an organization, it is going to create other changes in the organization. So when we look at what we call those long-term or operational levers, that's also going to create change in individual and personal factors. Let me give you a clear example. If we change the structure and we redesign how an organization is going to be aligned, or a division, who is going to be part of what reporting structure, of course, that's going to have an impact on individuals, who they report to, maybe even their job roles and responsibilities. And so this is a sample of a model we might use. So why should you consider a master's certificate at Schulich Executive Ed? We are the #1 business school in the country, of which we're very proud of. We do teach top students from around the world. It is very unique. Lots of employers recognize this, and it's well distinguished in the world of certificate programs globally. And you have an opportunity to deepen your current skills and acquire new ones. Overall, let's just share with you what it looks like in terms of your numbers. So there's 11 days, full essential days of learning. There's 6 faculty currently involved in the program. It is done over a 5-month learning journey, plus your career-changing practicum opportunity. I'm going to pause there for a minute because one of the other questions coming through, and Joanne, you can probably answer this question best. Is there a student award? And perhaps you can talk about the grant program as well available to students.
Yes, so there are no formal scholarships per se, but for students, for participants who live in Ontario, there is the Canada-Ontario Job Grant. So if that is something, if your firm is going to fund this for you, then they would apply for the grant to determine if you would qualify. But if anybody's interested, I would be happy to share the information with you and also get the application in as soon as possible to determine if you would qualify. If anyone would like to reserve their seat in the program this week, I'd be happy also to offer you my personal discount.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joanne. And it's my understanding that grant can actually cover up to 70% of the employer's contribution to the program. We have had participants apply for that, successfully receive that. And either the organization has covered the remaining part of the program or the individual has done it as well. So it is, thank you, Hassan. It is a great way to have your organization help pay for this. And it's really popular right now because the government is obviously here in Canada in very much support of how do we upskill and reskill people. So great opportunity to present that for you. Fantastic. Okay, so again, you can reach out specifically to Joanne for information on the grant program. And I'm just seeing popping up here in the chat as well. Could you expand on the practicum a little bit more? Absolutely. So the practicum is an opportunity for you to introduce within an organization development intervention. So Hassan shared his story about introducing values and behaviors as part of their performance management system. So rather than people just getting evaluated, for example, in terms of their goal achievements, how did they go about doing their work? Because that makes a difference. You might, other practicums, for example, have introduced leadership programs, coaching cultures. We've had other programs take a look at, can I introduce a career initiative or an onboarding program within my organization? We've had people actually address more what we might consider line management types of situations. So I'm introducing a new software application. How might I go about doing this in my organization from leading change? So lots of different examples. You're responsible for choosing an employer. We do put out a call and we do try to help support people with additional employer choices, but you are responsible for finding your practicum. You get paired with a practicum advisor, and that practicum advisor is available to you on a monthly basis to help coach you around designing that intervention and working with the client. The whole aim is to apply your learning around the tools that you've done, the processes that you've learned, and the academic or the theoretical perspectives you learned, so that you can actually walk away saying, I have done this, I feel confident in this, I know how to do this. And as part of that practicum, you also keep a learning journal and you summarize your learning around, for example, might be around OD process consulting, which is different than management consulting. I've got a current participant right now who's really loving the fact that as OD consultants, we build capacity and we do it in partnership with our clients, as opposed to a typical management consultant who might come in and tell their client what to do and would be known as a subject matter expert. And hopefully that answers the question around practicums a little more fully there. And I'm just taking a look for any additional questions. And I'm just going to put Joanne's name back up on the screen as well. And as Joanne said, she's going to be following up with each of you individually so that you can get any questions answered, in particular around payment schedules, around the study grant, and the program itself. The dates are all available there. Our next launch date is April, and it runs through formally to June, with the practicum following that. Do you offer career advice and career changes as well? Great question, May. We don't have it as part of a formal service, but what you will find, and Hassan, I'll get you to add to this. What we have found is people have learned so much about themselves as a practitioner. They have either decided to pursue different opportunities. They've met colleagues within the program and have heard about opportunities. I myself advertise when I see my clients post job opportunities in OD. If you're part of my LinkedIn network, I always promote those opportunities across Canada or globally so that people are aware of that. I often mentor students and practically will just have a conversation with someone. What is it you want to do? What do you find fulfilling? Why is this role attractive to you? And we have many I know students who've talked to one another about career roles to gain a better understanding. Hassan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think those are all valid, Michelle. And I think just the networking opportunity you'll get with different your peers, your cohort group. If you are a leader in the business that's looking to bring about change, I think this program is a really good springboard, not even a stepping stone, I'd say. It's a springboard to bring about those changes. I'm an example of one taking the program, having brought a lot of changes, leadership programs, performance management. We implemented a bunch of HRIS systems as well, and took a lot of learnings from the MCOD program to build, as Michelle aptly said, to build capacity within the organization. Because much unlike a management consultant, your job as an OD practitioner is to get yourself terminated from the role once you build capacity. So, and doing that within the organization is critical in order to see it grow. So it doesn't mean you lose your job. It just means you move on to the next project and help build other things. So internally, lots of opportunities once you've taken the program to help develop your organization. But if you're looking to get into the consulting space and externally, as well as you network and partner with people, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of organizations outside that don't have OD and change departments where you can lend your expertise. And then obviously networking with your cohorts, you'd be surprised how many organizations are hiring in this sphere, because there is a need to address the VUCA environment, and it's there's a lot of job openings, and you'll start seeing, I know Michelle, she's connected with me on LinkedIn. I often notice her posting jobs or resharing jobs, and people are constantly connected. It's a very connected industry, and there's a lot to learn from one another. So from a career advice and career change perspective, I think the networking is key. And then obviously learning from one another. And if you are in a position to bring about change in your business, then this program teaches you how to do that. How do you address the stakeholders, and how do you, I've created a department out of this within my own business that did not exist before. So.
Woohoo, that sounds like a conversation for another call.
That's right.
How do you scale a whole department? Love it. Yeah. We just want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for participating and joining us on the call today. And I would especially like to thank Joanne. She does a lot of hard work behind the scenes to not only give information around the grants, the questions answered around the program itself, but she's a fantastic resource. And Hassan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day as well to provide your perspective and your continued support for the program. Such a pleasure to have you here again. And I'm always learning from our participants as well. So I learned a few new things about you today, and then how you've applied the learnings from the program in your own workplace, which is fantastic. So I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes, but thank you everyone very much. And we look forward to hearing from you and hopefully seeing you in one of our future program offerings. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, everyone. Thank you so much.